And who is our stronghold? You guys spoke too quick. Our stronghold, just like David said in Psalms in his life, who is his strength come from? Almighty Yah. And what did Almighty Yah give to us as a refuge? His Son. As an advocate. As a comforter. So from Him, from our stronghold, is a refuge. And that's what we're going to talk about today. In Isaiah chapter 22, verse 16. You know, this semester has been a very difficult time for me. Also, my sister. We're taking several classes that we've never encountered before, and one of them I'm taking class is philosophy. And one of the things that they like to talk about, that we like to talk about in there, is how words can have different meanings. And from our own interpretations of those meanings, we get arguments. We get disputes. When what we really should be looking into is what did the word really mean from the very beginning? Right? And that's when the word rock came to me. Okay, I'm going to go into this, and I want to see what this word meant. And in chapter 22, verse 16, it says, "What have you here? And whom have you here, that you have hewn a burial site here, as he who hews himself a burial site on high, inscribing a resting place for himself in a rock." Now, I remember Brother Jared, he's not here today, but I remember himself, I think I heard this verse from him before, that's kind of a metaphor of which the rock in which Yeshua was buried in. Now, reading the context of Isaiah 22:16, it's about a man who's scared. And sometimes in our lives, we're scared that we start digging for ourselves a refuge. That we start thinking, this is what I'm going to do, this is how it's going to work so that it works out for me. Nothing's going right in my life. So since nothing's going right in my life, let me see if I can figure it out. Did that bring anyone any good? Ever? No. And if you go there and if you read a few other chapters, a few other verses before it, and say in verse 12 of 22, "And in that day that the Master Yahweh of hosts called for weeping and mourning and for boldness and for girding with sackcloth." Sometimes we reach to a point that sometimes that's all we can do. All we can do is weep. All we can do is just look sad wherever we go. All we can do is tell everybody how sad we are. Or if not tell it, show it. And what do we expect to get? A pat in the back? A prayer maybe? But what we dig for ourselves sometimes is a burial site. Sometimes we get to a low point in our life that all we see in ourselves is all the bad things. And we think that's supposed to comfort us. No. A word came to me long before, and I preached it way before. It says, evil begets evil. And if you surround yourself with sadness, if you surround yourself with negativity, all you're going to get is negativity, is sadness. So you think you may be comforting yourself by digging yourself this burial site, but you're really not. There's only one refuge, and that's who you need to turn yourself into. And that refuge is built on solid rock. And that rock is Almighty Yah. He's the very first. And He sent His Son for us as a refuge, not for our own, to build another one. When Brother Isaac and all the other elders and the men were discussing in that little pew there, they came upon the topic of Moses, of when he struck the rock twice. And that rock was a representative of Yeshua, of how it's only supposed to be smitten once. But how come when it comes to us? Aren't we supposed to have repented already of our past? So then how come when we come to a low point in our lives, we want to come back to that feeling of lawlessness, of lostness, and put ourselves through that again? If Mashiach is in us, and we have smitten ourselves once already, by repenting, if you really repented, you don't have to go through that again. And what did Moses get for doing that twice instead of once? He didn't get to see the promised land. There's no such thing as repenting twice. You can repent once. Because if you repent twice, then the first one never really happened. Do we want to deny the first time that Mashiach died and rose? No. No, we don't. So with him in us, we can't see ourselves in such a light that we are so bad, that we are so evil because of the things we did, because of the things that sometimes we often do, that we lose sight that he is already in us. We can't do that. Because what other people see as we call ourselves children of the Most High, if they see us down all the time, if they see all these things put on us and we can't handle it, then they're going to say, well, what's the difference between you and me? What's the difference? And you know, I'd like to testify for a minute because last semester, a bunch of people at Tulane kept asking me, how come you don't worry? You have just as hard classes that we're taking. You want to be a doctor like the rest of us. You see us here stressing, pulling all-nighters, studying, but you're here taking a nap. What's wrong with that picture? Huh? Why aren't you worried? And I said, if I was worried like you, then that would make me the same as you. But I'm not the same as you. You see, I am founded on solid rock, and so are we all supposed to be founded on solid rock. Once the old man has gone away with, we are on solid foundation. And what did Yeshua say about the man who built the house on a rock? That when the storm came, it stood. It still stands. So that's what we have to do when a storm comes. Whenever storms comes in our lives. Because it's not just going to happen once. Yeshua didn't promise to us a happy, trouble-free life. No. He said, so did I suffer? You shall suffer. We have to bear that stake that he bared as his bride. When you're married, mom, pops, if you don't know what your spouse went through to be who they are, you will never understand them. Why do you think Brother Isaac asks whenever he's about to marry a couple, do you know each other? Do you know what makes your spouse mad? And if your spouse is mad, can you handle it? Because if you have no idea, I'm just going to relate this to what Brother Johnson's been teaching us in the morning study with marriage. If you have no idea what your spouse is going through when they're going through, then you're not one. You have to feel for whenever your spouse is feeling something. Because Yeshua feels whenever we feel something. Almighty feels whenever we feel something. And you know what's amazing? He doesn't have to. Thousands of years ago, he could have took out this planet. He could have reset time. We would have never existed. But he didn't. He knows the beginning from the end, so he knew that you, Sister Sean, was going to be on that pew thousands of years ago. That I was going to be standing here thousands of years ago. He chose to love us in spite of what we've done. In spite of the things that we've thought of. The things that we've said. The way we've treated people. He's given us chances upon chances so that we can be a witness to people. So that others can see that there is a difference between being in Yah and being outside of Yah. But you know, sometimes when trouble comes, when trials come in our lives, we feel like we're outside Yah. I'm a testify. I felt that. When my classes get too hard, when I forget to sleep or when I forget to eat, and I just don't get in the Word, I feel like I'm not in Yah. I feel that. And it's a horrible feeling. But Brother Gray, I think it was Brother Gray or Brother Isaac would preach one day, and he said, as a child of the Most High, you're not supposed to feel that way. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be always in His hedge, protected. And you're the only person who's bringing yourself to that low level. No one else. Unless, now He did say in the Word that those who raise themselves up, He will bring down. Now, is there anyone here that wants to raise themselves up? No. So then, if He's not bringing you down because of your pride, then someone else must be bringing you down. Something else must be causing you to be down. And who has more influence in this world, on this planet, right now, in ourselves than ourselves? Who understands us better than us, than ourselves, besides Almighty and Yeshua? No one. Right? Right, Mother Ethel? Right? No one else. Your husband might think that he knows you better. Your wife might think that she knows you better. But you know yourself. And sometimes when you feel down, you remind yourself, well, I was dirt before this. I'm dirt now. What kind of attitude is that? Is that the bride that Yeshua is coming to come back for? No. We should have strength always filling us up. That no matter what trials may come, no matter what life may bring, we stay strong. In Psalms 18, verse 31, He is our source of strength. The rock. He is our rock. When you're leaning on a solid rock, you have no fear of falling over. None. You know, I read a while ago about this man. I forgot where he was, maybe the Grand Canyon or something. Well, he was leaning on a rock. The rock was set against a ledge, and the ledge was at least 1,000-foot drop. But he was leaning on a rock. He thought because the rock was so massive, was so big, that even if he leans on it, it's not going to fail him. But there's only one rock that's not going to fail you. Any other rock that you think will hold, will not hold. That man fell, and it's gone. Because he put his faith on what he saw was a solid rock. Back then, I can't speak for myself. I can't speak for Shandon. But for those who had a different life before, I'm sure you had an idea of what the rock you were holding on to.